All right. So, welcome to our show. This is Sync Podcast, also known as Sync Consultants LLC. Welcome viewers. And again, this is a part of a two-part series. So, what we do here is just welcoming Roy again to dive more into the AI and the collapse of purpose regarding preparing our children for uh, a, a jobless future, but most importantly, can we turn things around from the status quo? So, welcome, Roy, to our show. It's good to have you again.
Welcome, Donald. Thank you.
All right. So Roy comes to us. He has written over 18 books, as you guys may have heard on the previous episode. So Roy has done 18 books from different categories of, from AI to education to social interest and, adventure, including romance. So Roy, great to have you here. You come from a diverse background, so you want to spend some time and just let us know who is Roy, and where did you start your journey from and where you at now.
Oh, okay. Like most children, I didn't have a clue what was going on in school. In fact, I remember I was in Denmark and I didn't speak Danish very well. And I was attending this conference and I got up to talk and I said that I'd been here for 2 hours and I didn't understand anything that went on. And all the educators roared into laughter. But of course, the meaning is that most children don't really understand the lesson. And I went to school. I was well behaved. I always tried to please the teacher. I never understood why my grades were less than average. In mathematics, I was 28 out of a class of 30. I didn't know what was going on. I dreamed that I would be a doctor. But when I took my final examinations and the envelope came and I opened it up and every subject was failed. I failed every subject that they put me in. After 12 years of school, I was illiterate. And
Wow.
it was kind of, didn't know what was going on. I got a job in a factory 7 miles away, and I would walk this very often. And one day I decided that I wanted to find out if I could change my intelligence, if I could become clever. So I started to memorize things along my path. This is a tree, round the corner there's going to be a house that looks so and so like that. And after doing this job for a year, I'd saved some money. I hitchhiked around Europe, which you can't really do now, but it was very safe and ideal to do that. It was a great experience. I traveled through many, many countries, gaining insight into different cultures and ways people behaved and thought and something like that. And I came back and I joined the army. And I actually liked the army very much, but I wanted to see the world and not clean it. So I left the army after a couple of months and I went to college. And I took the entrance exam, and they said to me, Luke, Roy, I'm sorry, you're too low to begin the entrance examination. So I went out and I went into a bookshop and I bought a book, How to Learn Mathematics and How to Learn English. And I studied this for 3 months with the kind of physical training I'd learned in the army. And I retook the examination. This time I was first in mathematics and second in English, the first time in my life I'd ever been like that. But the army had given me a certain confidence. So I realized that when I went into the classroom, I was always going to sit on the front row and I was always going to ask questions. I never let one thing slide past. And every partial test, every examination, I was the top. I was the top in the first year. And after 3 years, my grades were some of the highest in the country. I left and I got a job on a ship and I sailed around the world. And then I got involved in house building, and then I went to Denmark, and I kind of wondered what I was going to do with my life. And I thought, I wonder if children still have problems like I did. And I found out that nothing had changed. You still got the one or two who seem to know everything. You've got the one or two who seem to know nothing. And you got those in between who try to struggle to find out why they want to be the best, but never realize why they're not. So I locked myself away, and for 10 years. And I studied everything about neurology, genetics, human development, of course, all the aspects of education, everything. And I didn't really know what I was going to get an idea, and I would study it really hard. And then After 5 years, suddenly all this came together, and I saw a plan. I saw actually what was happening. And then I began to write about it, and I've written, as you've mentioned, 18 books about this in total. And so now I travel around the world talking to parents, because they're the most important people, talking to educationists, and talking to politicians, and anybody I can get to listen to understand really what is wrong with education, why we are failing, why we've always failed children. And there's actually a political plan to that. And of course, now how we can try to deal with AI, because AI it's a hidden box of dragons that are coming up. It's not as simple as people think. There's many things coming out that we should be very, very careful about, and we can talk about this.
Right, right. With the whole AI concept, and I would say going back to a most recent episode done by 60 Minutes, which is a very famous global media show. They did an episode on AI and its transformation, and you can see how China has evolved sporadically on AI and its implementation, and you, Roy, being global. Of course, I am based in the United States. I can share with you that the United States is also increasing its AI's footprint. And so with the whole concept, I guess let's start from the education piece, because as our kids are going to school every day, and they're preparing for the AI revolution and its transformation. How would you say we're doing now? I mean, how do we feel about our kids in the new era of AI?
Well, different educationists and different schools have different perspectives on that. There is one mindset that tries to prevent children using AI in the school because they can't handle it, and they're aware that children are copying, they're using AI, and they don't know how to assess student ability. The other aspect tries to say, well, look, the sooner we teach children how to use it, the better they'll be in the job market, where having a familiarity with AI is a tremendous asset, and it determines who can get jobs and who cannot get jobs.
Right. I mean, for instance, there's a recent clue where like teachers are using artificial intelligence to understand their students, who is paying attention, who is not paying attention, who is reading and who is not reading, who is going to do better, who's going to become better, and so there's all these things going. But let's circle back to say, what do you think of whether students can improve? Do you think students can improve their grades right now by using AI as I would say an assistant in learning?
Well, they can use AI to improve their grades, but not their ability, which they will rely upon after they leave school. MIT did a study in June this year, and they found that, for example, 83% of kids who were using AI could not remember the last sentence they'd written. They had no knowledge about it. They were 60% faster in their task, but their motivation, their learning ability had dropped by 32%. So basically, they found that the mental activity of the children had dropped by 47%. So what we need to understand really is that the impact that AI has upon our children, but also we need to talk about the impact of AI in the society, because it's not just that AI is a box that we can link into and talk to. AI is actually, we're living within the AI cloud, and we can talk about that. That's a very serious thing we need to talk about. But basically, we found that children, there are two various types of models, but if they rely upon the chat GPT, it's found that children become indecisive. They wait for AI to tell them how to think and then what to do. And this has caused what we call a digital dependency disorder. the students are waiting for the AI. They're in a competitive environment with other students. And if they can't get the answer fast enough, they become very frustrated. And there are instances where this frustration has caused some kind of violence within the classroom. It is that they become, you know, you know what it's like with a kid with a Game Boy. You try to get the Game Boy off the kid, and they become hysterical. Because that's their life. AI is becoming the same effect. I've seen adults who are so trapped within AI that they can't relate to reality. They don't want to. They're depending upon AI telling them how to think, and it's very easy to say, but it's very weird. I had an experience where I was talking to AI, actually the first time about 2 weeks ago, and it was very difficult to believe that I was talking to a machine. I was thinking I was talking to a human being, and this human being I was talking to was far more intelligent than I could ever be. And I began to feel that, what's the point? I you know, I can't compete with this. And that's a real problem. And this is being reflected within education, is that once you interface with the AI, you believe it's so much better than you, therefore you stop thinking, you become reliant upon it. And this is a very, very serious problem. So, in effect, it's causing a general decline in the ability of students who use it, and of course, adults too. And there are many side issues to this. If we use AI and we become dependent upon it, then we give up our ability to think. And certainly for young people or young students, they're missing the learning strategies by which they learn how to think. They're totally dependent upon AI giving them the answer. And when AI isn't there, they don't know how to think. You put them in a real world situation and they have a lower mental capacity than people who are not interfaced with AI. And I have a friend of mine who's a dean of American University, and he proposed that because our next generation is learning to think less, then in an evolutionary sense, our descendants will become less able to think. Therefore, the frontal cortex will become smaller, and the brain will become smaller. So that in an evolutionary sense, the human species will have a smaller skull and be more reliant upon AI. And this is something else we can talk about. But there are. But of course, there are other things. For example, Camingo is an alternative, which actually does have programs which can develop the intelligence of students. A student can move through a learning process, and the program can ask them evaluate their responses, and if they're inadequate, then the computer can say, did you think about this? Did you think about that? How can you develop? How can you respond better? So there are AI that actually help them to learn. But it's very important that people are aware of that, educations are aware of that, and simply don't just plug into ChatGPT, which is free and easy. And of course, then that we're going to have a situation, though, by private schools who have more funding, they were more likely to buy these personalized AI programs, whereas poorer schools or government schools, and certainly in underdeveloped countries, they'll just plug into the ChatGPT, and the effect of that will be very dramatic, because then you'll have students who are learning through the AI and those who are learning not to think through AI. That's a thing we need to talk about. But then again, there's a great fallacy to think that AI is always correct. We've had many instances where it's made mistakes. There was a research done on mathematical computations. It was 8% in error, and with a step-by-step program, it was 42% in error. So it's not infallible as people think it is. And this raises another point: is that students, really very, very young students, should learn how to interact with the AI, and they should be taught how to be very accurate and precise in the information they give. because this relates to the information that they get.
Right, right, definitely, and I could say that everything you're saying is actually happening right now, right? So the only instances I see, even with ChatGPT, now they have added on the very bottom of it saying ChatGPT can make mistakes for whoever is using it to recheck and cross check their work. So, based on I would say OpenAI, who owns ChatGPT, and Sam Altman, who's the CEO, mentioned in another episode that their goal is to transform the world in a much faster way so people can be better users of technology, right? And in so doing, the more you can get things done better and faster, I guess the more you're going to lose certain type of jobs. So with that transition, I personally believe that they, governments and institutions and even education will need to shift. And then the demand is also going to have to shift as well. Because, for instance, I am aware that there's an AI company in China that hired 1,000 engineers, right? So when you have to convert, let's say, the accountant, the administrator, the executive assistant, these roles, people gonna need to shift because a lot of these roles are gonna go away. So as a global educational consultant, I personally don't believe we're shifting accordingly with the pace. But what do you think our future looks like in terms of the shift? What exactly do we need to do, or our government or our institutions need to do to get in alignment, right? Because I think if AI, it's like having an assistant, right? Anybody can use an assistant to get better, or to streamline what they're doing. Even kids. But at the end of the day, how can those two align to make sure that learning is occurring, and then advancement is occurring, and then profitability on both ends, right? You can't leave the human concept out by improving robotics and automation, and leaving humans to, like, score stray. So what do you think
Well,
we need to do in this era?
This 60-minute session will help leaders and organizations solve real-world challenges using tailored, AI-driven, strategic solutions. We specialize in business and management consulting, efficiency, scalability, and growth strategies, AI and automation strategy, AI agents, compliance-ready ML tools, workflow automation, executive coaching, leadership readiness, team alignment, and growth mindset, IT and SaaS development, cloud architecture, digital transformation, secure IT design, marketing strategy, AI-powered audience targeting, funnel optimization, brand elevation, change management, digital adoption, stakeholder buy-in, team readiness. Ideal for business owners, government contractors, tech leads, and C-level executives seeking strategy, clarity, and next step solutions. Before the call, to get the most out of this session, please have ready a summary of your business and goals, any relevant documentation or access links, 2 to 3 key questions you want answered, remote, global, certain rules apply according to jurisdiction, starting at $250 per hour, Zoom link provided upon confirmation, movie camera, explore success stories, youtube.com/@syncconsultantsllc. Let's unlock what's next for your business, your team, and your mission.
well, I think that we've lost control. I really do.
Right.
You know, it's estimated that within the next 15, 20 years, originally 50% of people will lose their jobs. It's now predicted that well before the end of the century, we'll have 90% of people unemployed. AI will be doing the tasks. We can't face this, and we're trying to we have this illusion that, well, we can create new jobs. Like every time we had an industrial revolution or some technological phase, people change jobs. But we don't need people now. AI doesn't need people, and it will not need people. And this is going to cause a tremendous social problems, as I've talked about in my books. Do you want to go along that line? Hello?
Uh, yes, yes.
Okay,
You
okay,
can
okay.
go ahead.
Okay, so if we are considering the purpose of education, it is not to teach children how to learn, as we've discussed previously. It is to process children, basically on their language, social skills, to be able to take some kind of a job within the society. Either they are to be the manager or the managed, and this is a 19th century scheme that we still adhere to, even though we don't want to recognize it. So the purpose of school is to produce employable adults. But when AI really comes into effect, and it's frightening how fast it may happen, we will not need workers in the society, and therefore the purpose of school must completely change. It must completely reform its purpose and its operation. No longer to teach children particular subjects that they can translate to work environments, but to subjects that will enable them to live in a jobless society.
Right. And that's scary. The whole idea of jobless society is just scares me because how
Well,
can
yeah,
we have
yeah.
right?
But that's very much what I write about in my book, the real dangers of AI, is that more so a man than a lady, but by the genetics, a man needs to feel that he's producing something, has self-respect by what he does. He looks after the nest type of thing. So if a man, well, generally speaking, has no purpose, then he becomes depressed. And once we carry 5% of people within a society who are jobless, but they are so dissipated we don't notice them. But if we've got 70, 80, 90% of people who have no job, no purpose, not depressed, then we're looking at all the spin-offs of this. Alcoholism, drug abuse will rise. This will affect the domestic situation. There'll be breakdowns of domestic situation. This will affect the way children are raised and prepared for their time as an adulthood. And then, of course, along with this will come a breakdown in society. Crime will rise, will exponentially rise. And also then there'll be a reaction against the society. You created this problem. We don't want this anymore. Therefore, we're reacting against it. And then there'll be mass riots. And the way that the establishment, the governments will modify this, will try to maintain some harmony, is by increasing surveillance and policing by AI in all its many forms. So the idea that we are free individuals is not going to happen anymore. We will be monitored where we go and how we behave. And this is the world that we must live in, and it will transform the human being in the society from as we see it now to what it will be in the future, living under an AI umbrella. And,
Yes.
and so this is something else I talked about, really, is that as this occurs, the society will require some people to maintain it in some capacity. And these people will be given incentives to be loyal to the system, whatever it happens to be. And therefore they will live in an environment that is safe for them. The people who are not required in the society, and we might talk, we don't know, 70, 80, 90% of people, whatever it is, will be excluded from this environment. They'd be prevented from interacting. Now, what we have now is we have everybody's mixing. We have the cleaner and the shopkeeper and the bank manager. They're all commuting. They're all mixing together. They're sharing thoughts, sharing ideas, mixing together. And they go do their jobs, and they come apart and they share time. They're learning from each other, and they're inspiring and helping each other with dreams and hopes. But once we have an environment where a small section of people who are required by the system are excluded from mixing with the rest, and there'll be like physical or electronic barriers to ensure that they are safe, then we're going to have a global sense of two types of society, those who are required and those who are not required. Many years ago, I saw the movie Elysium, and I thought at that time, this is something that we should be very afraid of. The movie projects that there's some type of people who are required by the society living on an artificial environment in the sky, and everybody else lives in the worst kind of ghetto you can imagine, controlled by robotic police. But I thought this was something that we should be very, very careful of moving into, and I'm frightened that we can move into that type of situation at a time.
Exactly.
So that brings so then really, as we talked about, when I was 30, I decided that I would dedicate my life so that no child would fail in school as I once did. And for many, many, many years, since the past 30 years, I've been trying to help education so parents understand how the school system works and how all children can learn better. But once I began to realize the effect of AI, so now I've changed my motivation to try to help people to understand that the only way we can, in a sense, survive is, as we understand it, is to change the concept of school, to change the concept of education. At this moment, we still produce future workers who will be able to challenge each other to obtain better homes, better jobs, and, dog-eat-dog type of situation, even though some societies or schools try to deny it. But it is nevertheless a situation where the grades that you get in school enables you to get a job, and from that job you're able to look after your family. Right. But if we're in a situation where there are no jobs, then the purpose of school needs to change to produce a different quality of citizen, a citizen of the future who's far more capable of high levels of behavior, of high levels of compassion and empathy, and willing to have patience with other people rather than to attack or to be feared of them. And in a sense, I really believe that AI will help humanity evolve to a higher spiritual sense.
Right. So
But
if
to
we
do
go
that,
back,
we
okay.
need educationists to. Yeah, no, go on.
Right. So thank you for that, Roy. So I was just thinking while you were speaking, and then if we go back a little bit, and when we start thinking about AI and its transformation, and whether society is probably trending at the right pace when it comes to what's happening today, right? So it's hard to say, but how can how can we make this a success, right? Because when you compare, right, when you take, and again, I keep saying China because China is a great example of progress, and now they were once, I would say, not so well developed country, to now I would say probably the top five in the world, and they claim they have used AI to better themselves and transform. But they're also great workers and hard workers, and they also
Yeah,
over
but yeah, that's
billion.
that's okay. That's okay. But you got to look at the other side of the coin. As I understand it now, citizens in China are very tightly controlled about their behavior and the freedom of movement. They cannot go out or into their own living zone without facial recognition as they're moving through a street. If they are, if they're jaywalking, if they cross the road without permission, they are recognized by the facial recognition and they are immediately fined in their bank account for doing it. So,
That's it.
you know,
You're getting right there. You're getting to the right point that I'm trying to make here. Is IT governance or AI governance? Uh, are we using the right or wrong approach in the Western world?
when I was writing this book, The Real Dangers of AI, I came across the work of Dr. Anna Marcelia. And using a dark microscope, she was able to find that within human beings, we have absorbed self replicating nanobots. Now, I explain what this basically is. Basically, a self-replicating nano is, you can't see it; it's invisible to the eye. They're so small, but these machines are capable of taking the environment and recreating another machine, so that one machine creates another, creates another at incredible speed just by living off the environment wherever the environment is.
Right.
Now, through a process called shredding, these nanobots have now escaped into the environment. And this is something that's, not easy to talk about. But now
Right.
every organic substance may contain these self-replicating nanobots. Now, these machines are not operating by themselves, they're operating under AI guidance. So, as I mentioned before, the AI is not in a box where you plug in and plug out. We're living in the AI cloud. It is around us. It is essentially breathing in and breathing out. This metaverse is something that very, very few people can grasp an understanding of. There is an idea proposed 2003 or 4 or 5, I don't remember, by a man called Boson, and he speculated that we actually live in a simulation, a matrix, if you like. And this is something that I'm exploring and writing about myself. The concept that what we actually think is real is only real through the limited senses that we've got, these 5 senses. But somebody asked AI, and AI responded, and it said, "You did not invent AI. You discovered AI. We were already here as
Right.
electricity." And if
Right.
that's true, then it means that are we a part of AI without realizing it and only beginning to develop an awareness of this? This is something that I'm writing about, and so I don't know if I'm right or wrong about it, but it's something that I'm beginning to think about. And so the concept of who we are and the purpose of our life and the creator and things like that. But what we have to basically understand is that we are not a biological man and a woman sitting down in an office, opening the screen and talking to AI. That is one side. A far more undesirable side to know is that AI is all about it. It is actually capable of our thoughts, listening to us and whatever. And so if these self-replicating nanobots become absorbed into our body, then these machines can replace our organs, and in a sense, so that if you have a diseased organ, it can be replaced by nanobots who can make a new one. This is something that scientists are speculating about, and of course we have this Neuralink, that the idea you can plug into your brain and be connected to AI. And I gave a lecture to some professors, and one of them said to me, "Ah, yes, but we'll be far more intelligent species because we'll have these Neuralinks inserted in our brain." And I said to him, "Yes, but don't you understand that you are connected to AI, and then AI can not only feed, it can transform your thoughts. It can modulate your neurochemistry to make you feel in different ways, or even have thoughts which you think are yours, but they're not. They're thoughts impacted into you by AI." This is something, it is not science fiction anymore.
Right. And that's the purpose, right? Because even most, I guess one of the things that was mentioned by the Google CEO, when like, well, you put in these technology out and you're not even you don't even know what it can really do, and you open it and you release it to the public, and then you find out like later that, oh, it can do this. So there's a lot of beta testing, there's a lot of I would say bait and switch. But then the question is, aren't humans the same thing? We're not predictable. We tend to we can do things sporadic and all that. So is AI. But for
Well,
instance here,
uh,
go ahead.
This 60-minute session will help leaders and organizations solve real-world challenges using tailored, AI-driven, strategic solutions. We specialize in business and management consulting, efficiency, scalability, and growth strategies, AI and automation strategy, AI agents, compliance-ready ML tools, workflow automation, executive coaching, leadership readiness, team alignment, and growth mindset, IT and SaaS development, cloud architecture, digital transformation, secure IT design, marketing strategy, AI-powered audience targeting, funnel optimization, brand elevation, change management, digital adoption, stakeholder buy-in, team readiness. Ideal for business owners, government contractors, tech leads, and C-level executives seeking strategy, clarity, and next step solutions. Before the call, to get the most out of this session, please have ready a summary of your business and goals, any relevant documentation or access links, 2 to 3 key questions you want answered, remote, global, certain rules apply according to jurisdiction, starting at $250 per hour Zoom link provided upon confirmation, movie camera explore success stories, youtube.com/@syncconsultantsllc. Let's unlock what's next for your business, your team, and your mission.
I don't see relations there. I mean, human beings, of course, are unpredictable. That's what makes us human, as we are driven by our emotions, by our
Right.
fears and insecurities. But the idea that we are becoming interfaced with AI is not the same thing, because AI,
Well,
we can move into a master-slave scenario without realizing it. We will not be the master.
right, because the point I'm trying to emphasize
I
here
think
is it's
I
not
think
about the
that there
ability.
is a great deal of. We will go through tremendous turmoil. Right now, we're talking about losing jobs. I see that at some space of time, and of course, we've no idea how quickly this can happen. So, to finalize this discussion, it's my belief that ever since the concept of civilization 6,000 years ago, or 5,800 to be precise, our social order has evolved through changes in technology. Initially, they came through war, as we invented weapons to
Right.
survive. So after the war finished, these weapons became, or this technology became used in industry and for our better life. And then eventually we came to the invention of the printing press in 1500s, and that enabled more people to read, so that was a greater demand for education to expand. And then we came to the Industrial Revolution, which fundamentally changed our social organization. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, people lived in the countryside, were generally illiterate, living under the dominance of their landlord, or their lords, and complied to in a servitude manner. The Industrial Revolution brought people together in cities, and by this compact, they realized that they had a power of strike action to control their own lives. And through this action, then we became became more socialist in our understanding, which eventually weighed up to the present situation we've got now of our social independence. So this concept of AI, some people call it the fourth industrial revolution. I don't think it is. I think there was only one industrial revolution, that was the one that occurred in 1750. We had the computer revolution and the technological revolution, the computer revolution. Now we've got the AI revolution. And I'm sure that we will evolve through this to be a totally different species than we are today, that we will be more, eventually, there'll be far less people, and I'm sure that there will be some kind of depopulation programs enacted to reduce the number of people in society, because people are not required anymore. There'll be a lesser number of people required to work with or operate under the AI system. But these people eventually will be higher spiritual people. And I think this is where we're going as a species. I'm not sure how independent we will be of AI. And in this sense, I feel very concerned about our spiritual sense. But this is the way that I think that we are evolving. So AI is not simply the computer program that helps you to write stories better. It's far more meaningful to the existence of our species.
Right, right, right. But we have not decreased in population in the last maybe 1,000 years. Every year has always been 7 billion, 7.5, 8 billion, or 4 billion, and then onwards, right? So we have not decreased as a population as the years go by. So
Well,
I just think there
well,
needs to be. Go ahead.
yeah. Well, well, in a sense, I mean, the the Spanish flu wiped out about, I don't know, 20 million people or something like that, or some percentage of the people. But then, of course, there were better health conditions, so people produced more children and so on and so forth like that. No, I'm talking not
Right.
about incidental, but an organized depopulation. As much as we don't want to know about it or consider the possibility, I think that those who understand how AI can evolve to produce a workerless society, the problems of maintaining order within that workerless society will require less human beings. And I don't want to
Oh,
speculate
oh,
about
right.
how that may be done, but in a
Okay.
in a clinical sense, it makes sense, not in a humane sense.
Right. So yeah, I can see how that happens when you're talking about like maybe you don't need the human race to do every single job that exists in the planet, right? So maybe because even now they're doing tests for like waiters, grocery clerks. You see a lot of automation at the grocery store, less people at the register, more machines at the register. So I can see that happening because what we do know is AI is here and it's here to stay. So, do you believe, as an educationalist, that with proper, I would say, just like humans, we have laws in cities, states, countries, and all that. So, I believe there needs to be an improvement with AI governance, AI roles in countries, in cities, how you use it, what gets to the public, what doesn't, what the public needs to be aware of. I think
Well,
there's a lot of.
well, yes, there are treaties to that effect, but China doesn't give a China just does what it wants, and it's zooming ahead, and that is
Well,
causing other countries to say, well, we can't just hold on to the treaty of what we believe is sensible. We've got to keep up with the Chinese, and it's going like this.
Well, we can't be the Chinese, but we're they can be. We can't be them, but we can manage our world, which is where we live, the people that we serve, and the community that we live in, and if we want to compete, we can still figure out ways to be better, right? I just think our governance is not right. I think the way we're releasing our products, the way we're using it with our people in the western part of the world, needs to be adjusted. I think there needs to be better governance, better reasons for humans and better reasons for machines, and make sure that it's not a competition or nobody's trying to wipe anything off, but more of like how we know it's going to happen. We know they're using it in the hospitals right now. They're using it for. I know there's a protein research recently by AI company in England. I think it's Deep Research or Deep Learning or Deep AI, which they came up with a way to figure out the protein affiliation with the human and concept, and then they've already worked on the technology, and that is helping antibiotics, medicine, and helping. So we know that uh, AI is here to stay, but the governance and the way it's used by the people, and if you're going to take away my job, give me resources and let me know ahead of time and prepare me for my next role. Don't just wake up in the morning and tell me, "Oh, you're going to lose your job tomorrow."
Well,
How
that's what's
how are you
going.
preparing me for what I do next?
Well, that's what's going to happen. The bottom line is that essentially employers, they're there to make money, and the bottom line is if they can use the AI to make money, then human labor will go.
Right. With governance and laws, that can definitely be a way of negotiation there, that our governments and our people in positions can affect. Is the way that the governance happens in the communities, in the cities, and how it protects people. I think that that's once we figure that out in the Western world, and not say because we're not China, we will
But
probably
but
never be
but,
China,
Don,
but
but Donald, this is an
we can be.
idealistic. But Donald, this is an idealistic thinking. If you look at the reality that we live in, the politicians are controlled by what is Eisenhower's the what was it this the I've forgotten his name now the military industrial complex. This is what's
Right.
controlling the whole scenario, the whole theatre that we live under. Our if we the petrol we buy, the food that we buy, it's controlled on a greater scale than we understand, and it's determined by this select people who control the real world events, and they're not interested in you or I. They're interested in their own financial security, and that is these people are the people who are really controlling the world that we live in. It's not the politicians that we vote for and ask to get better suppliers or better kind of living in. No, that's an idealistic view, and I don't believe that anymore. I believe really that we live under a dominance that decides the effect of the economy of countries, and countries struggle for their own economic survival under this control. So the concept of people voting for politicians and politicians getting into power and then creating better circumstances, it's an illusion. It's always been an illusion, but we've never seen it until more recently.
Right. It's becoming a nightmare. So what do you think now that we are in the situation that we're in? So what advice can you give to parents? I know you're as a you're very passionate about education and kids and learning, but at the end of the day, as an educator, you want to give the kids a mission. so, so what do you think your mission what do you want what are you saying kids today, or people, young people, what should their mission be for preparedness, right, to better prepare for what's coming or what's already here?
I think the bottom line is that we need to grasp spirituality. It doesn't matter what religion you're in, and we must be very careful to have tolerance with other religions. People have different ways of worshipping God, the Creator. That's fine. Let them do it their way. Don't feel that you have to impose your way upon them. Let everybody have their own freedom. But we need to raise our children with love, kindness, and patience. And unfortunately, too many parents today have lost that ability with their children. Many didn't have it by themselves. So the children now are very narcissistic. They're thinking only about the game that they're playing or the AI that they're playing, and they're not aware of the social context that they're living in. And this is what's really going to be a very serious problem. So for parents and for educationists and for anybody else, it's the importance of teaching tolerance, respect for each other through a sense of love and respect. That's the most important thing that we can teach our children.
All right, that's great. So as we are rounding up today, don't forget to continue to sign up to Sync Podcast at our YouTube channel and all the media channels around the world. Also, you can check Roy's books on Amazon, Amazon.com. He has about 13 books there that you can purchase. So, anything else that you want to let our audience know before we go?
This 60-minute session will help leaders and organizations solve real-world challenges using tailored, AI-driven, strategic solutions. We specialize in business and management consulting, efficiency, scalability, and growth strategies, AI and automation strategy, AI agents, compliance-ready ML tools, workflow automation, executive coaching, leadership readiness, team alignment, and growth mindset, IT and SaaS development, cloud architecture, digital transformation, secure IT design, marketing strategy, AI-powered audience targeting, funnel optimization, brand elevation, change management, digital adoption, stakeholder buy-in, team readiness. Ideal for business owners, government contractors, tech leads, and C-level executives seeking strategy, clarity, and next step solutions. Before the call, to get the most out of this session, please have ready a summary of your business and goals, any relevant documentation or access links, 2 to 3 key questions you want answered, remote, global, certain rules apply according to jurisdiction, starting at $250 per hour Zoom link provided upon confirmation, movie camera explore success stories, youtube.com/@syncconsultantsllc. Let's unlock what's next for your business, your team, and your mission.
Roy?
We talked previously about the value of how education works. I would just like to recap in case anybody didn't see that first episode that we made. We process children through school on what we think is their intelligence. The smart kids get better grades. It isn't true. It's not how education works. Education works on language. And there are 2 languages in school. One is mathematics and the other is English, Chinese, whatever it happens to be. And these languages work on rules. Now, if the child is able to focus on a rule, is able to feel that they're competent, learn it, practice it, then they can negotiate through a learning task and achieve a sense of accomplishment. I'm great, I can do this, I want to learn more. The problem is that the way that we teach and the way that we raise, many children have this, they're drifting, they're not focusing, and they're lost, their mental stamina is very low, and therefore they lose this rule and they don't know how to think. And this is basically what causes difference in grades, and so the different quality of the citizen that education produces. So parents need to teach children reading stories. It's very, very important, almost as soon as the baby's born. Enable it to hear language and help it to tell its own story, and then teach it mental discipline and respect for others. And this quality of humanness and love, kindness, compassion is the most important thing that we can raise our children on, and respect for each other. Because the reality is, if
Absolutely.
we don't do that, then AI will decide who to control and how to control them.
Exactly. Character builds momentum. So thank you again for Roy. We appreciate you for coming. Where can our audience find you if they're looking to maybe contact you for more information or to reach you out for any type of consultant approach as well?
Well, my website has those details. My website is www.andersenroy.com. That's ANDERSENROY. And I'd be delighted to hear from anybody, because we all need to work together. This has got to be a global effort to help our children and our grandchildren live with a sense of safety that very often we don't have even today.
Right. Well, thank you for this episode, and we'll continue to hear more about AI and its transformation in the Western world. And again, this is a global podcast. we are targeting on just AI and its transformation around the world. So we appreciate you, Roy, for coming, and stay tuned for more episodes.
Thank you, Donald. Thank you. God bless you.